Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Every once in a while, we have to bring out the big dog.
Yeah.
Oh, God help us. It's time for Danny Unleashed. Sponsored by Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. Go to eastonroofing.com for more.
Yes, indeed, it is time to unleash the vicious, rabid dog that is Danny Clinkscale, brought to you by our friends at Easton Roofing. Integrity matters. You know, you can find Easton Roofing online at eastonroofing.com or call 913-257-5426. The project manager on site at every job, commercial and residential roofing. Yes, and of course, even happy to do repairs. 4 straight years voted Best of Houses winner, Angie's List Super Service Award winner. Check out their great reviews at Google. No payment collected. Till you're 100% satisfied. Credit cards and PayPal, they are accepted as well. And I can tell you that now is a great time if you've got a little bit of a drip after the winter. It's going to be a disaster when it starts pouring rain. The winters can wreak havoc on your roof. I'll let the guys at Easton Roofing come take a look and make sure you don't have any major problems looming coming up into the big storm season. Easton Roofing. Online at eastonroofing.com. Call 913-257-5426. Danny, how are you, buddy?
Doing just fine, Soren. Very busy day, but come in relaxed, refreshed after a nice chiropractic session, which included acupuncture.
I thought you were going to tell me you'd played a round of golf.
No, not enough time for that these
No golf
days.
yet?
I've played 12 holes so far this year.
Really?
And that was on Wednesday.
Good for you.
Yep.
Well, did you feel like a dork leaving on the 13th?
No, I kind of jumped around, so I actually did play the 18th hole.
Oh, did you? Okay.
There was a few missed in between.
Okay, I see. I see how it works.
Yes.
All right. There. Yeah, timing's everything. I get the shrug of the shoulders. So what do you think of this Kansas Jayhawk team and its chances of going deep in the NCAA tournament?
Oh, that's where we're going to start.
Yes, because I just did basically most of an hour on the deal. We can start with the other if you want.
No, we can go.
I was going to shift gears and come back to it.
We can go there a little bit later. That's fine. I think their chances are quite good given the context of college basketball. But I did hear T-Box call yesterday, and Kansas does have a small margin of error because of their rotation. And I know that in the NCAA tournament you don't play as many guys and things like that, but they really only play 6 players. And, you know, you can get 2 players in foul trouble pretty easily in a game. So I think that makes them a little bit more vulnerable.
Who are the 6?
Well, the starters and Christian Braun, basically.
Okay. You don't count McCormick?
Yeah, but he played when Doak plays, they don't play together anymore, basically.
Right.
So, but that does say that if he got in foul trouble, then McCormick's there. So yes, I should include him. But
because I sure as hell would take McCormick at Syracuse.
I think McCormick is a good player.
I do too.
Wouldn't get on the floor at Mizzou.
Yeah, he would, even if he was backing up Tillman, because he never can stay out of foul trouble. But I think they should be the favorite. They have 2 dominating players, and perhaps that can be seen as a little bit of a liability too. They seem to have really, as the season has gone on, more and more leaned on those 2 players. And I think you have to give Bill Self a lot of credit, but I think you have to give Udoka Azubuike a lot of credit because Bill Self didn't just roll out of bed in the middle of January and not Eureka! I could figure out a way to get the ball to him. Some of it certainly is that they've changed the passing angles by giving the ball to Garrett more.
I do think, that's...
But Azubuike, I think, has done a better job of getting himself available. But certainly their scheming has been better, and their team has been better since Bill Self. You do things for a variety of reasons in college basketball. And I think Devon Dotson wants to prove that he's a true point guard. I think Bill Self
he's not doing it. So
I think Bill Self kind of gave him the opportunity to try and do it, and he couldn't.
Yeah, I think that's not to say he can't, be a lead guard in the NBA, or be the guy who defends the point while playing with LeBron James. Right, there are plenty of teams now that play the point forward style of basketball.
Right.
Luka Doncic doesn't want to run around and guard. If you're the Mavs and you're looking at him, you're like, well, geez, they're like, oh, we already got a point guard. It's Luka Doncic. Yeah, but he's not defending John Wall or Steph Curry, right? Because those guys are going to go right by him. So you still need a guy who can guard other teams that have the smaller, quicker guards. And so I think that's his calling card. And I'm with you. I think he may have said, hey, listen, here's the deal, go get it done. But he really is more the two.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Garrett the one. And once they made that switch, and they went to it, I think it also did come about with the, it was certainly it hit another gear when De Souza got suspended, because then it was like, all right, we don't have a third guy if we want to play two bigs. And when you play a high-low, you are kind of asking everybody to move the basketball. You get assists out of that high post. And so now they pretty much said, all right, the guard's going to have to facilitate everything. And he sold out. He said, we can't count on De Souza for anything because he's suspended for 12 games for one. And I'm not going to try to rebuild.
And he was playing bad before he got suspended.
He was.
I mean, he had lost he wasn't playing.
No. And so I think, he said, okay, this is what we're going to have to be when we get to the NCAA tournament. So let's start being it now. And they've become the best version of that they can be, as they always do under Bill Self.
I totally agree with that, but I think that, and Kansas is the favorite, should be the favorite, but
you can be the favorite. But
being the favorite,
from,
they're not a strong favorite.
They're like 14% to win it all type of favorite. Not I think the highest we ever saw back when Paul Basir used to do this. I think the undefeated Kentucky team might have been like 8% or something, and they didn't win it. Right? And the year Kansas won it in 2008, he did have them as the favorite. And that was, of course, a loaded top 4 field, or even top 5, because Carolina was really good, too. And I think they were the favorite at about 15% that year. And they won it, but they were only 15%. Like, play that tournament 100 times, they win it 15 times. Right? And so you can be the favorite. It doesn't mean you blew it if you don't win it.
No, you never blew it in the NCAA tournament when you lose, and you do have to win 6 consecutive games, and at least 4 of them should be mighty challenging. If you're playing that third game, it's against a team that has won 2 tournament games already, feels good about themselves, and was a pretty good team probably to begin with. I'd say that I'd give them a chance of winning the tournament more in the 10% range probably now, but still as the favorite, because there's a whole bunch of teams that are good, and I think one of the issues at play here is I think some of those Big Ten teams, and they have 8 ranked teams right now, I think some of them are pretty darn good.
Yeah,
but they are playing a very difficult schedule within the Big Ten because there's a lot of good teams.
It's scary. Michigan State's starting to gain some momentum because they are a good team with good pieces.
And a team like Michigan has had a couple significant injuries. There have been teams like that have lost players for periods of time that are getting them back now. And, they might have pieced together 3 losses in 5 games during those periods of time. So there's dangerous teams out there. But about the first of late January, I wouldn't have given you much of a chance that Kansas would win the national championship or make the Final Four. They were really grinding their way through games, winning but not looking impressive doing it. And that's all changed. It's been a beautiful arc of much better play for Kansas. So, but people could sit there and make the case, and it could be a good one, that this league's not very good. I mean, it's just not. And, and I don't think it is a case where those are pretty good teams that are beating each other up. I think they're mediocre teams that are beating each other up. I mean, if Texas is going to finish third, and they've done it with a surge that has come with some of their best players out, how good's the league? I mean, really.
I'm not enamored with it, and based on that, you could also say that Kansas and Baylor are somewhat paper champs in the sense that they're just beating up on nobodies.
I think you can make that case, but you can only beat who you play. And,
Agreed.
And down the stretch, Kansas has been beating people up, not just beating them.
Not the last couple.
Yeah, that's true.
TCU, they were down 5 in the first half, 2 at the halftime, and never could really put them away. They were in control. They won by 9.
They got in control pretty fast.
The K-State game, I don't know what was going on. I mean, Brian Haney's answer on Monday was good. Joke with the ankle, and Garrett's foot is more of a problem than people realize.
Right, and that's the other thing that you got to watch out for, because when people have bad ankles and bad feet in basketball, that's just one guy stepping on Garrett's foot away from a stress fracture. If he doesn't already have, he probably has a stress fracture, but a minor one. I mean, if his foot is perennially sore and he's hardly practicing, that means he's probably got some kind of structural damage to it, because it's not an ankle, it's a foot. And if once you turn your ankle, I mean, you could turn it bad in a game. So it's vulnerable. So then maybe you get a high ankle sprain. Then you're in big trouble. So,
and we just said a week ago,
right,
this is about the time that they end up having an injury.
That's happened to them, and supposedly there's some consideration now for Azubuike to sit out the Big 12 tournament. I don't know or think that's going to happen, but it would be a real show business type of way to play basketball, to go out and have the guy play heavy minutes on his senior night and have a wonderful performance, and then say, this little tournament in Kansas City, not so much. He can rest it up. He had his moment in the sun. Now he can go lay in the sun for 3 days or whatever. So,
if it's Oklahoma State or Iowa State, and they're playing in the 1-8-9 game, then I think you could probably hold them out for the first game.
Oh, I think you could.
If they don't win on Saturday and they end up being the two, and
are they? Wait a minute. By not winning on Saturday, are they playing Saturday and not winning, or are they not even getting to Saturday?
No, I'm saying this Saturday,
tomorrow.
If they don't win tomorrow and then don't win the Big 12 tournament, are they still a 1 seed? Because if they are, then there's a debate to be why would he even be playing tomorrow? Just give him an extra day. Be weird to give him.
I think if they lost, I think they lost tomorrow and lost the first game. I think they might lose their number 1 seed. But I think if they were to lose tomorrow and win a couple games and lose the final or something, I don't think they'd be a number 1.
If they're going to be a 1 if they lose in the first round of the Big 12 tournament.
Well, first of all, you don't know.
Right.
And secondly, the choice this year now the number 1, the 1-1 gets to choose where they play. It's not really that great a choice. It's Houston or what's the other one? They're both fighting.
Well, no, it's 4 choices. Everyone assumes it's Houston or Indianapolis, but you could choose L.A. and you could choose what's the fourth one? What's East? New York. I think it's Madison Square Garden, isn't it?
Madison Square Garden, yeah.
They're not going to choose New York, I don't think, because you don't want to end up playing Duke or Virginia or somebody like that up there. So it's not going to be New York. I've heard some KU fans say they hope it's L.A. because that's always the easiest region. Like, well,
okay. But the thing is, it's not like the old days when you put a bunch of teams from the West in the West.
Yes.
I mean, they just put anybody in there. I mean,
right. No, but I think there are a lot of times where you do end up looking at the bracket and you go, I think the West is the easiest. But whether that's because of how they try to pot it up a little.
Right.
I mean, there is that point. Like, now you could be in the West region and playing in North Carolina and all that kind of stuff. But I can see where it does get dumbed down a little bit because ultimately you got to end up out West and where it is. But I think it's Houston or Indy,
but they don't get to look at the bracket and choose.
I'd have to look at the Houston flights today, but in fact, look at that, Curtis. Look at the Houston flight. I'll do it. You don't travel as much. I got probably some better links. But the travel to Indy kind of sucks.
Although you can drive it.
Oh, you can
easily.
drive it, yes. But how many people do you think are driving it versus flying it?
I'll tell you what. By the time you connect and everything, if you don't mind driving.
Oh, I would never fly to Indy.
Right. I've driven to Indy more than I've flown.
Not with the flight schedules they have right now.
480 miles. So about
I would. But the flights to Houston are pretty. Let's see. We'd be talking about going down on. You play on the 26th, right? I don't know. Let's say it's a Thursday, Saturday, so it's 25th and 29th.
And that's a pretty that's a big drive.
No, you're not driving Houston. It's. I mean, you can. It's not that bad. But like right now, the nonstops on Southwest to Houston. Okay, nonstops. First of all, connecting flights, which they don't show where they connect through. There's a nonstop at 7:30, a nonstop at 2, and a nonstop at 7:30 p.m. Returning, there are 2 nonstops. Indianapolis on a Saturday, there's no nonstop back to Kansas City. Yeah. And so you end up going through Chicago, so you're better to drive than fly. There are, and if I add in, who is it? What I forget which airline bases out of Houston, but it's going to pop up here.
The only other thing that you could do that sounds counterintuitive, but it creates kind of an easy scenario, and also maybe people wouldn't be taking the flight, so it wouldn't be that much competition for that flight, is you can fly to Chicago, which is a super easy flight, and then you just drive to Indianapolis, which is a very short drive.
It's not a very short drive.
Yeah, it's pretty darn short. It's like maybe less than 90 minutes, I think.
No.
Yeah, I think so.
Chicago to Indy, pull that up, would you?
I think so.
I think not.
I think it's pretty...
It's not 90.
It's the next state
is...
And it's not a huge state.
From the airport to Notre Dame, which is in South Bend, which is up on the southwest corner.
184 miles.
Okay, I was wrong.
3:18.
3 hours 18.
I beg to differ. I stand corrected. I must be thinking of another. There must be another way to drive there.
You were thinking of
Dayton, maybe.
Gary, Indiana. Is what it was.
Maybe Dayton
or South Bend. Like to South Bend, that's what it would be to South Bend. Like O'Hare to South Bend would be probably...
Maybe that's what I was thinking about.
Yeah, 75 minutes.
Maybe
I think that's probably where you were thinking.
Yeah.
I'm looking here, and then like as far
All
as
I'm
United...
saying, I guess my whole point is
United has a whole bunch of flights. The Houston trip, if you're going to fly, is immensely easier than Indianapolis because there are no flights to Indianapolis.
Right. But driving to Indianapolis is a piece of cake. I mean, it really is. But a lot of people don't like to do that. So
7 hours in a car is not most people's number one choice.
That's true.
So
anyway.
I you know me. I'm like you. Like all the hassle of going to and the security and all this, and then getting the rental car or Uber and get your bags, all that crap. Like I would rather drive to Indianapolis, Minneapolis, St. Louis, almost Denver. Denver's a coin flip. There's a lot of flights to Denver, but good Lord, you land in Cheyenne, and then truck it downtown to where you want to be in Denver now.
Right.
Dallas is close. I mean Dallas, but there's a million flights, so you can usually make it pretty convenient to your schedule on Dallas. But somebody's like, "Oh, I'm flying out. Where are you going?" To Oklahoma City. I go, "You're kidding me. You're kidding me."
Yeah, that
like if you live like Steven or Doug and you're right by the airport, fine, pop in and go. You live in Johnson County, and you're gonna drive
350 miles,
45 minutes the wrong way to sit around for an hour and a half at the airport to then fly an hour to Oklahoma City. I'm on the other side of Wichita before your wheels up.
Right.
Yeah, it says 5 hours and 3 minutes, and these things are always conservative.
For what?
To Oklahoma City from here, and that's Casey Mo. It's probably less than that from Overland Park.
And that is full bore interstate right to the town.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no, you're not, you don't have to get off an exit, and you're right. Boom, you go right in there. That's an easy drive.
But I will tell you that even L.A. now, although it does get a little tricky with, all right, you got to get over, got to be in one of the middle 3 lanes or something. But even L.A. now with GPS is like no big deal. Because I have to drive, or been fortunate enough, I should say, to drive in L.A. each of the last 6 years. And we always go do something in addition to what we're there for. And so we end up going across town. And it is like that stupid Saturday Night Live skit. It is the 405 to the 201 to the 10 to the 8 to the Reseda.
What are you doing, Stuart?
Yeah, it is. You really do go through 5 different highways, but your GPS just goes, okay, this exit, okay, this. It's not the old days where you got the atlas out. And you're like, I don't know. Was it left, right, or right lane, Martha? I don't know, Jim.
Get our Rand McNally book.
Yeah, right. I used to have that in my car all the time.
Now the argument
your
comes.
Your phone just tells you, my Sprint phone tells me where to go.
Mobile travel guide.
Now the argument comes with my wife needs a map. She wants to look at a map. I just want to look at where they tell me to turn. I don't need to see a moving map. She likes the moving map, where you can see it. So we argue about that. But now I've completely bought in, and I used to hate listening to Alexa or Siri or whoever yells at you, and now I don't mind. I kind of like it, actually. So I crossed that barrier. It used to be like, shut up. Will you shut up? I still turn her off right away.
You idiot. Why are you going there? Would you please speed up?
Because I make a point when I get to my destination, I always X out that box right away so that I'm not on to my next thing. And you've arrived at your destination. Yeah, I know. Shut up.
I'm right in front of it. I know I'm here.
I know I'm here. Then you're in a meeting 2 seconds later, and you're like, would you like to end your trip?
What I find comedic about that is you think you've actually discovered something. Like, everybody just closes the app when they get there. And you're like, oh, you know what I do? When I get there, I close the app. Revolutionary. The rest of you should try this.
I didn't say it was revolutionary. What I'm telling you is that on more than one occasion before I started doing it, I would be like 8 minutes later, she'd talk to me for some reason about what I was doing.
When I get somewhere, I get out of my car. I don't sit in their car the entire time.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll get Danny's thoughts on Kansas's rebuttal. Have you read it all?
Every word.
Every word?
No, I mean, I did skim it, and I've read several articles about it. But no, I did not read every word. If somebody wants to accuse me of not having read each, what are there, 375 pages, and there's a couple addendums, too? No.
Okay.
The answer is no.
So we'll get Danny's half-baked opinion of this next.
That's right.
Here in the program.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
We're here with Joe Spiker, the president of Easton Roofing. And, Joe, you worked for other companies in the construction industry. What inspired you to start your own company in Easton Roofing?
Well, Danny, when you are working for somebody else, you oftentimes don't get to see the project through from beginning to end, and you don't get the final control over the customer experience. And I wanted to build a place where people can come and get work done on their house and not have to worry about being treated the wrong way and get a good customer service experience start to finish.
The company slogan is "Where Integrity Matters." Why is that so particularly important to you?
Well, for us, what that means is treating each other with respect at work, treating our clients with respect, and making the right choice, especially when no one's looking. So when you're presented all the time as a contractor with choices that have to be made, are you going to make more money on this if you cut a corner? And we just wanted to make a place and a slogan that said to our people and to whoever is our customer, we're not going to do that. We're going to make the right choice regardless of profit.
Easton Roofing, where integrity matters.
Who was the only pitcher to lead the league in strikeouts in each of his first 7 big league seasons?
Oh, you're just being nice to me, aren't you, today?
I'm just being lazy because I saw
J.R.
the name
Richard?
popped up.
No. Who's
certainly. Who's his all-time
I
favorite?
know.
Lefty Grove?
Lefty Grove.
I almost said...
Born on this date.
I figured it's either an Astro or...
Lefty Grove.
Then once I knew it wasn't J.R. Richard, I'm like, oh, yeah. Danny trumpets the Lefty Grove like it's nobody's business.
I think he'd had a stroke by the time his 7 years would have been reached, unfortunately.
He might have.
Yeah. Oh. I almost thought of Dazzy Vance because he was really the first great strikeout pitcher.
Yeah.
And this is a great trivia question. Rogers Hornsby hit .424 in 1924, and Dazzy Vance won the Most Valuable Player award. That's how good he was that year.
Or they were morons and didn't, or they hated Rogers Hornsby.
Well, he struck out 50% more batters than the second leading strikeout pitcher in the league that year. So,
Albert Bell became the first and only player ever to hit 50 home runs and 50 doubles in the same season, and they gave the MVP to Mo Vaughn. It's not because Mo Vaughn had a better year. It's because the writers were dumbasses.
They didn't like Albert Bell.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Mo Vaughn was kind of...
Hornsby was not a beloved guy, right?
They're like people like, his name is Rogers. Come on, how pretentious is that? I'm not giving him anything.
And Mo Vaughn was kind of Big Papi-like. He was kind of a popular... I think he People
He
like
was.
people
Yeah,
like Mo Vaughn.
They like fat guys who can play professional sports. Let's be honest.
It's a good point.
Good Sense, what we were playing for, you can order it on your way home right now. GoodSenseSubs.com. Set what time you want to pick it up. Pick it up. Make sure you're part of that loyalty club. 10% back at Good Sense. Danny, brought to you by Danny Unleashed. Easton Roofing, online at eastonroofing.com or call 913-257-5426. Whether it's a repair, if you think you got some sketch things going on up on your roof, let Easton Roofing come out and take a look. If you need a new roof, if you put it off as long as you can and you are worried, starting to get that warm weather back, and you can get Easton Roofing up there, repair that roof before the big thunderstorms come pouring down. Don't hesitate. Don't wait. Literally, you talk about putting a roof over your family's head. It's the most important part of your house. Call Easton Roofing today at 913-257-5426. Voted best of houses 4 straight years. Joe and the crew will take care of you the way they've taken care of my roof and Danny Clinkscale's roof as well. Danny Clinkscale from DannyClinkscale.com, which, by the way, what's coming up?
Well, we have all kinds of things coming up and things that you can revisit. Sporting Kansas City opens up tomorrow, and I did a podcast the other day about their new food selections, but also I included the comments of Peter Vermees about the opener. I didn't figure just food was good enough, but it was the Arts and Lifestyles podcast. So
Favorite food dish?
I didn't get to sample all of the, they got a bunch of new restaurants there, but they had these kimchi tater tots were one of the things that they gave us samples, and those were really good.
Okay.
Yeah, so...
Stunning. Sporting Kansas City did something right.
Yeah, and they've got a big...
Just amazing how that would work.
Big variety of... They've got like 9 new restaurants within the concourse.
9?
Yeah, so 9 or 10.
9?
So
Number 9.
There are 9?
So I've got that, and today's Kansas City Profile, sponsored by Easton Roofing, which is a personality profile or a profile of... an interesting topic in Kansas City is today's Bob Kendrick of the Negro Leagues Museum.
Oh, very cool.
It was really a nice conversation. Grew up in a very poor background in Georgia, and eventually came to Kansas City to play college basketball at Park College at that time.
It's a
great story.
Absolutely. All right. You were chomping at the bit.
I wasn't really chomping at the bit. I just figured that was, the topic of the day.
And I don't know that it's. I mean, it's not the topic of the day. I don't think it's actually gotten to that. I think it's one of the topics, but I think people don't know what to do with it. Because first of all, who's read it? Like, it's not fun reading. It's legalese for 380 pages.
Well, thankfully, people
so most
like
people
Jesse
are reading some stories of people who have written it,
right.
And most of the stories I've read, I'm like, you read about the first 10 pages. Because when I see somebody quote something from page 321. I'm like, okay. But they're all quotes.
I got the sense in reading Jesse Newell's story that he read the whole thing. That was.
I think Jesse might have.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Jesse's story, but didn't you like? I read it first, and then, or I read other people's stories, and then I read it between like 10 and 2 today, and like it was like the first 10 minutes of reading, I'd gone through every quote that I'd read in any story already. I'm like, well, there they all were. And then you get to the other stuff, and I'm like, well, nobody even saw this.
I do think that, however, that when people do releases like that of themselves, most of the meat is in the beginning of the piece. A lot of it was... I think there's some shading. Like I said, I skimmed it. I mean, I did skim the whole thing and tried to,
Yeah.
But... Here's my, if you want my overall arching take, is that first of all, I thought the general tone of the response was smarmy, snarky, like screw you, that kind of thing. It wasn't like, hey, we're sorry we did this, and here's some reasons why we did. It was more like, get off my lawn, the type of response. That's what I thought. But the point here...
Can I comment on that before
Sure.
we get too far from it? I mean, the written word has no tone. So to me, it's the one thing I've always said about texts and emails that are difficult is tone is in the head of the reader. And the tone you take it with is generally the tone that the opinion you had before you ever started reading it. Somebody sends you a text that you think is a jackass, it has a jackass tone to it. All right,
it's part of the reason emojis are used to say, I want to make sure this person knows I'm going to throw a smiley face or something on there.
And which is interesting because you're obviously you went to Kansas,
right?
But I know that you have been very I was fully expecting here we go because you've thought Kansas is guilty and all the different things along the way. Your approach has been much more of a they need to pay approach, and so I think you read it with you're guilty, admit you're guilty, and this is a defense.
Really. No, not really.
For the
I think that
allegations that have been put towards them.
What I'm saying is that I think that sometimes in the past people have put a more conciliatory tone when they've been trying to respond to the NCAA, and I think this was more of a fighting tone. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
That's for fighting, yes.
Yeah,
but listen, it's your opinion. Whatever it is.
But my opinion of the whole thing really hasn't changed. Kansas is guilty of participating in the cesspool aspects of college basketball.
Right.
And they just were, and their entire defense really is, hey, this is the way it is, and we're just acting like other people did in an environment that is the way business is done.
I think there's a lot of truth in that. I do think when the NCAA, though, labels Adidas as representatives, that's the mistake the NCAA has made, and I think it's the only way they have a case. I think that's the problem with the case. And if it were in a court of law, which this could have been, right, because the feds investigated and they brought no charges against anybody at Kansas, if it were in a court of law, it would go nowhere. Now, it's not a court of law, and it doesn't have to be proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. If you're just listen, no, what day you green-lighted, go after that guy or spend more time trying to get this kid to play for the Adidas team. No, we don't have that on tape. All right? But we're quite confident you did it, and therefore we have the power given to us by you and the other schools that we're going to penalize you. That's how the NCAA works. And I do think that there is a part of what we're watching here is the money has gotten so big, and when you don't make the tournament, the money's big. Kansas is going to lose money from Adidas if they're out of the tournament. They won't get as much money. That's detailed in it, that Adidas has protection. If you're not playing, if you're not on TV, we don't give you as much money. And so at that point, that it's one thing to do we know you did it. We can't prove it, but we know you did it. You're in an age where there's billions of dollars at stake, and I don't know it can just be, well, we've given this group power. Now it's no, you've got to show it. Where's the tape? Where's the video? And if you don't have it, we're not giving up $100 million. Right? I think it's gotten the business of college basketball has grown to the point that just we know you did it, and that's good enough, and we've been given the power to hit you. I don't know if that works in today's day and age.
I don't know if it works either, but my whole point here, which I'm going to get to, I think, is that do you want to change the way college basketball is operating? And I wasn't saying you were trying to stop me from getting my point, Soren, so don't take it that way. Do you want this? Do you want change in college basketball, or don't you? That's all. It's that simple. If Kansas doesn't get punished in some significant way, then basically what everybody said, and Kansas fans have the right to be happy about that the way that college basketball is operating right now is fine. And I don't feel that way. So I guess I would like to see some significant punishment. And if Kansas blows back at this, and people say they don't have the goods on them, and other people are doing worse or the same, why aren't they punishing them? I'll listen to that, and I'm not going to be up in arms no matter what happens. It's just that people, I don't want to accept, I'm going to have to if that's the way it is, that we operate the same. Basically, you're going to be saying we operate the same way. We're going to just sort of push it off to the side, try to ignore that these things are being done, and make college basketball more professionalized. And it seems like the road that we're heading to anyway, because state governments seem to be saying that you have to, give people the right to use their likeness and all that other stuff. But where does it stop? That's the only thing. there's going to be some rules in place and some legislation. I mean, there are going to be rules. You can't say that somebody can, use their likeness and then somebody can give him $15 million for their likeness. I mean, they'd have the right to do it. What could stop them? You'd have to have limits. So I don't know what people really want. If they want Kansas to not be punished, what do they want?
If there was a singular point in there, I failed to find it. I hear many different talking points in there. One, you said, I want change for college basketball. This is a case about Kansas. I mean, I hear that a lot. What I hear is, and I'll go back to what I said in the first hour, people, like yourself, want it the way it was. And that is never going to be. Never has been. There's somebody, I'm sure, who wanted to ride their horse and buggy, piss on these automobiles. I like my horse. My Sam is a steady mule. I want him to lead me on. But change is inevitable. Agreed. And you have to embrace it and you have to come about. And so what I hear a lot, I hear a lot of like, I don't like Kansas, screw them, right? And so then there's a lot of like, here's all the reasons why Kansas is this great villain. And I think those are pretty easy to spot. But what I hear a lot, that's not you, obviously, you went to Kansas. But what I hear from you is, I like college basketball the way it used to be. And we're not getting there. Because your initial point was, we've got to decide, about college basketball. But that's not what this is. This is about Kansas. That's what this case is. And that's what I think people feel like is, if Kansas is punished, then college basketball will be better. And I don't think that's the case. I think college basketball, as we know it, is gone. It's going to be professionalized. They're going to get paid. And I think it is going to continue to be less and less of an important entity out there. And so Kansas every university needs to recognize that, because the minor leagues are happening. Kids are playing in New Zealand. They're going to the G League. And as soon as they take away the 1-year rule, that's going to be a flood. And the caliber of basketball that you had at the college level will never be what it was. It's going to be a lessened entity, and there is nothing you could do. So that's to your point about wanting college basketball to be better. That's not what this case is. So that's unfair. And I think the NCAA is trying to do that. I think they're trying to do what you want them to do. Let's get Kansas so that college basketball will be better.
Well, but not let's get just Kansas. Let's get the group that Kansas, the cesspool, as I used it, the cesspool they were swimming in. That wasn't a big cesspool. Okay, that was, how many programs do you think were really? 50? Maybe that sounds like a lot to me, but.
I would say that
are in the,
how many in the Big 12 are in it? I mean, really, I think that's low. I think it's all 65 power programs, which doesn't include the Big East. So there's 12 more in the Big East, 77, and maybe you got, I don't know, Gonzaga and a handful of other schools, 80 schools.
I think where the real big time problems came is more when you're talking about schools that routinely are recruiting the top 15 players in the country. And I think that is a smaller group. So I think...
Well, but I think it's a smaller group that get it. But Georgia has Anthony Edwards this year. You wouldn't have put Georgia in that group, but they got the number one player in the country.
True enough.
Memphis got James Weissman, and they're not in one of those Power 5 schools, and they had the number one recruiting class in the country. So I think it's a bigger group than... The others try to do it. They just fail. They don't get the guy. They went in the club. They'll do everything they can to be in that club. Memphis got in the club. They got the number one recruiting class, and they have a shoe deal with Nike. And I think it's ridiculous to think that, number one, it can be policed. It's like prohibition. You weren't going to take alcohol away, and you're not going to take money out of the hands of the kids. You're not going to do it. And even giving them 10 or 15 or 25 or 15 million for their likeness. Like, that's not going to get it done either. There'll still be, okay, and here's 5 million more.
That's why I think that people should just be able to play pro basketball as soon as they want. Okay?
And that's coming.
And then I think you can say that you can't do this. Okay? Those guys are going off to pro basketball. Don't spend money.
How do you not do it? Because it's always been there.
Well, you actually do take away tournament. That's the only thing that really gets people's attention. So
yeah, if
you remove the guys who really expect to get that kind of money, I think you can say that the 150th best player in the country, I don't think you'd necessarily be paying top dollar for that the way you are.
But you're not removing the top 150. Like that's an extreme. That's not the G League. Like you might have 40 guys go, but the guys that are going are the ones that think they're going to get drafted and go play minor league ball, or they're going to go play in Europe, which they can already go play in Europe, and that's still just a handful of guys that think they're guaranteed to go play at the next level. Right? So right now, you can go make money in China. And there are guys that are good enough, but they choose to stay here in America. So the quantity of people that are going to go to the league are going to be the top 20 to 40 guys.
But part of the reason they're going to do that is because they feel like they can get something out of playing college basketball that's actually worth as much, if not more, than going to play pro basketball. I think I'd like to see that part taken away. If maybe it is impossible. I don't know. But I'd at least like to see one last Custer's last stand or something here, because I don't have any issue if they want to go to a league, a European model as far as sports is concerned. But if people really want to act like they enjoy college basketball, I think they're hypocritical. They want to have it.
Of course, they are, which is what I said in the first hour.
I didn't get to hear your monologue. I apologize, but I think that people want to have this senior night and speeches and all that hoo-ha. Maybe you just said this exactly, but still turn a blind eye to the stuff that's going on to create it. So I don't think that is the standard opinion I think you think that I have. I think you should try to want to have it either way. And people want to have it both ways. They want to say, oh, look at Doak. He was here 4 years. We love him. He made a wonderful speech. Look at senior night. Throw roses. Whatever. And just well, let's say we're innocent by the NCAA, so we can pretend that we weren't really doing all this stuff. I mean, it's bull.
I think the counterpoint is that's what has been accepted in the NCAA, watched and had no problem with. Like Marvin Bagley's dad. Let's take a break and we'll tell that story real quick. And you tell me how the NCAA isn't talking about that. We'll do that next. Danny Klinkskill's with us. Danny Unleashed, brought to you by the folks at Easton Roofing.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
We're here with Joe Spiker of Easton Roofing. And Joe, oftentimes people will wait to replace their roof until there is a weather event. What should they know about that?
Well, Danny, the important thing to remember is if you're going to turn in a claim to your insurance company, you want to make sure that you actually have damage on your home. If you turn in a claim to your insurance company and they send an insurance adjuster out, it's going to be a claim whether they give you $1 or $10,000. So it's important to make sure that you actually have damage on your home before you turn that claim in. And all you have to do is give us a call. We'll come out, take a look, and make sure there's real damage, and we'll tell you if there's not. Maybe it's just a small repair and it's not worth a claim. So it's always smart to get somebody you trust to make sure there's damage before you turn in a claim.
Quality advice and guidance from Easton Roofing, where integrity matters.
All right, real quick. Marvin Bagley, people don't know, who went and played, was a one and done at Duke and was like the number 3 pick to the Sacramento Kings a couple of years ago, right when Kansas beat them in the Elite Eight. He was living, he and his family were living in a small apartment in Phoenix. And suddenly they moved to what I was told was a $1.5 million house in Los Angeles. And his father started an AAU program, of which he was paid, the story I read said, over $200,000 by Nike to run this AAU program. We're given $200,000 to run the program. Where the money went or what happened, what have you. And then he lands at Nike school Duke.
Right.
Father, no qualifications, really, or no reason other than his kid is Marvin Bagley. So how, I think the point is, when you say clean up college basketball, if you're Kansas, the point from Kansas' standpoint, and it's just as valid. How is this? How was there not, how does Marvin Bagley end up at a Nike school, right? When his dad was basically paid $200,000 and he makes his way to Duke.
Right, and I think that they should just.
To which I would ask you then, how does Kansas going down change anything that's going on at Duke or Kentucky or with Nike?
Well, that has to happen too. I mean, that has to happen too. If that doesn't happen,
but if they can't figure that riddle out and bring them up on the same kind of charges that they are Kansas, then they're too stupid. All they've done has been like, wow, we got a lot of exposure with this FBI trial. Let's just throw that into a thing and throw it at them.
Completely
and
agreed.
The court of public opinion will be with us because there were some things. There was a highly publicized FBI case,
but somebody's got to be first. Now, if they're first and only of the big blue bloods, then Kansas fans would have the right to feel aggrieved. No question. No, absolutely right. But when your defense is basically, hey, look at them, too.
Oh, I agree.
And I think
the
that's
Kansas
weak.
defense is pretty much that, like, hey, everybody's got to go down.
Right.
And if the NCAA has no interest in bringing everybody down, then what was really served? I mean, at the end of the day,
agree.
What did the FBI case get us? Like, we're still waiting for the halls of college basketball to crumble. Do you remember when we were told that? You know what happened? A guy nobody ever heard of, nobody ever knew, went to jail for 3 blanking months. That's what the tens of millions of dollars of the FBI. A handful of people you never heard of or even knew existed went to jail for 3 months. That's what the FBI trial got.
Well, right. And they should, if they can't do better than that, then Kansas will have the right to have felt picked upon if indeed these allegations are, sanctions against them are given.
Yeah.
They would feel, they would have the right to feel bad.
This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like Easton Roofing, the presenting sponsor of Kansas City Profiles at the Danny Kling Scale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Kling Scale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new.